Chosen one, what if I told you the betrayal you endured was never random? That family member who turned against you, that friend who suddenly pulled away, that group chat you were left out of, it was all part of a plan. They thought their schemes would stay hidden forever. But something huge just happened. God exposed it all. Now you're about to witness justice unfold, and you won't need to lift a single finger. They thought they had buried the truth, but the truth is rising, and it's louder than their lies ever were. If this message already speaks to your soul, subscribe, like this video, and comment 77 below. Stay tuned, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why their efforts to break you in secret were never going to succeed, and why you're about to walk into the vindication you've always deserved. Betrayal was orchestrated, not accidental. It began subtly at first. An offhand remark, a suspiciously timed slight, a sudden change in tone from someone you thought you could trust. At first, you may have told yourself it was all in your head, that perhaps you were overreacting. But over time, the patterns emerged. The whispered conversations you weren't included in, the pointed looks, the unexplained distance from people who once felt like family. It was a betrayal that crept in slowly, catching you off guard. And the most painful part? It wasn't the actions of strangers that shook you. It was the ones you had opened your heart to, the ones who knew your dreams, your fears, your deepest insecurities. They used that trust as a weapon. The betrayal wasn't random. It was intentional, methodical, calculated. You weren't imagining it, and you certainly weren't alone. This realization hit hard because it came from the people you never thought would turn against you. The family members who had always been a part of your story, the friends you shared your victories and struggles with, the ones who you believed would celebrate your successes. They became the ones who quietly worked against you. Their words weren't just careless. They were designed to wound, to plant seeds of doubt in your mind, to make you question your worth. And for a while, it worked. You felt isolated, uncertain, and deeply hurt. You might have wondered why you were chosen for this kind of pain, why you were singled out. But here's the truth. It was never about what you lacked. It was about what you carried. Your strength, your potential, your light. These things threatened the control they tried so hard to maintain. Their actions were born out of fear, not truth. They saw in you something they couldn't replicate, something they couldn't dim, and so they resorted to betrayal. Scripture tells us that this pattern is not new. Consider Joseph in the book of Genesis. His brothers, fueled by jealousy, sold him into slavery. They plotted against him, assuming that if they removed him from the picture, his dreams would never come to pass. But what they didn't realize was that their betrayal was only setting the stage for his rise. Joseph's story reminds us that what others mean for harm, God can use for good. The same brothers who sought to destroy him were later the ones who came before him, needing his help. This isn't just a story about family conflict. It's a divine example of how even orchestrated betrayal can be turned into a part of your greater purpose. It reminds you that no matter how dark their intentions, there is a higher plan that can transform their schemes into stepping stones for your destiny. As the fog of betrayal begins to lift, you start to see things more clearly. You notice that their words no longer have the same power. The sharp sting of their actions starts to fade, and in its place you find a growing sense of strength. You realize that the very things they used against you are now serving as proof of your resilience. The isolation they imposed gave you time to reflect, to rebuild, and to discover just how strong you really are. The doubts they planted are now being replaced by an unshakable sense of purpose. Their attempts to undermine you only highlight your growth. What once seemed like a chaotic mess of circumstances begins to take shape as a story of triumph. You see their betrayal not as the end, but as the beginning of a new chapter, one where you are not only surviving but thriving. Behind the scenes, something bigger is at work. The struggles you faced weren't random obstacles. They were part of a divine orchestration. Every tear you shed, every sleepless night, every moment of self-doubt was seen. And now, those unseen forces are clearing the way for your elevation. People who once ignored you are beginning to take notice. Opportunities that were once out of reach are now within your grasp. The plans they made in the dark are being exposed in the light, and you don't even have to fight back. The energy is shifting, the truth is surfacing, and your purpose is becoming undeniable. This is not a coincidence, it's alignment. It's divine timing. It's proof that you are walking a path that was set before you, a path they could never block. This is your moment of realization. For so long, you may have held on to the pain, the confusion, the longing for things to go back to how they were. But now you see that the betrayal was never about punishing you. It was about preparing you. Those experiences forced you to look inward, to find your true strength, and to learn to rely on your inner guidance. They showed you who was really for you and who never was. They taught you how to discern true support from hidden agendas. And now, as you stand on the other side of that darkness, you can fully embrace the transformation that has taken place. You are no longer the person who was blindsided by betrayal. You are the person who came out stronger, wiser, and more confident than ever. So where do you go from here? You move forward boldly. You don't let the fear of betrayal hold you back from trusting again, but you trust wisely. You step into your purpose with clarity, knowing that the people who tried to break you have only made you stronger. Every move you make now is guided by the lessons you've learned. You release the need for validation from those who never supported you and find fulfillment in your own growth. You walk forward not because you've forgotten the past, but because you've grown beyond it. This is your time to embrace your light, to live fully in your calling, and to trust that the path ahead is brighter than anything they tried to take from you. Comment, "I'm rising," if this resonates with you. The betrayal you endured wasn't the end of your story. It was the catalyst for your breakthrough. The ones who plotted against you didn't succeed in breaking you. Instead, they pushed you closer to your destiny. Now you walk forward, not with the weight of their actions on your shoulders, but with the light of your purpose shining brighter than ever before. Comment justice if this resonates with you. And if you feel called to go even deeper, there's a sacred space reserved for our community, a private room where you receive full prophetic messages daily. Join the Prop Heron membership through the link in the description and walk this path with us. Your light disrupted their control. You felt it, haven't you? That undeniable tension that rises when you walk into a room. It's not because you're trying to command attention or steal the spotlight. In fact, you might have been doing everything you could to blend in, to just quietly do your thing. But your energy, the authenticity you carry, the way you see through surface-level games and facades, it's something that can't be ignored. Others may not say it outright, but you sense it in their glances, in their hesitation, in their sudden defensiveness. They know on some level that you can see past the masks they wear. They know your presence brings a clarity they weren't prepared for. And that clarity, that light, disrupts their carefully constructed control. It makes them uncomfortable. It shakes the foundations of the roles they've played for so long. You weren't trying to cause conflict. In fact, you might have gone out of your way to avoid it. But no matter how quietly you moved, how humbly you spoke, your authenticity stood out. It's not your fault they felt threatened. You didn't ask to be different. You didn't ask to see things from a perspective they couldn't understand. But because you were true to yourself, because you carried a light that couldn't be dimmed, they reacted. They tried to discredit you, to make you question your worth. They whispered behind your back, excluded you from conversations, and made you feel like an outsider. Not because you were wrong, but because you were right. Your presence alone forced them to confront their own falsehoods, and they weren't ready for that. They weren't ready for someone who didn't fit into their system of control. In the Bible, we see examples of how light reveals truth, even when it's inconvenient. Take, for instance, the story in John 8, when the Pharisees brought a woman caught in adultery before Jesus. They thought they had the upper hand, that their constructed scenario would trap him. But Jesus didn't play by their rules. His response, a quiet moment of writing in the dirt, then the simple statement, "Let the one among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone," shattered their illusion of control. His light exposed their hypocrisy. They couldn't manipulate him, and they couldn't maintain the facade once it was illuminated. Like Jesus in that moment, your presence disrupts control not by aggression, but by truth. When you carry light, those operating in darkness are forced to confront their own shadows. It's not something you do to them. It's something your existence naturally brings out. As you continued to stay true to yourself, you may have noticed shifts in how others responded. At first, their pushback may have caused you to doubt. You might have wondered if there was something wrong with you, if you should dim your light just to keep the peace. But over time, you saw that their tactics weren't working. No matter how much they tried to silence you, your voice only grew stronger. No matter how many barriers they threw in your path, you found ways around them. It wasn't just that their control failed. It was that your strength made their strategies irrelevant. They may have tried to twist the narrative, but the truth kept shining through. Even those who initially doubted you began to see the cracks in the facade, and the more they watched, the more your light became undeniable. What's happening behind the scenes is more profound than you may realize. The pushback you felt wasn't just human resistance. It was a spiritual reaction. Light disrupts darkness because it changes the atmosphere. When you walk into a space, you're not just another person in the room. Your energy, your authenticity, carries a frequency that shifts what's around you. It's why certain people can't stay comfortable when you're near. Their control systems rely on shadows, half-truths, hidden motives, unspoken rules. But light exposes all of that. It doesn't just reveal what's happening. It changes what's possible. When you operate in your light, it's as if the universe begins to reorient itself around truth. Doors that were shut start to open. People who were silent start to speak. And the power that once tried to hold you down loses its grip, not because you fought it directly, but because your presence made its tactics obsolete. There's a realization that comes when you embrace this truth. For so long, you might have believed that the conflict you experienced was a sign of failure, that their resistance meant you were doing something wrong. But now you can see it differently. Their attempts to control you weren't about your weakness, they were about your strength. The very fact that they reacted so strongly to your light is proof of its power. This is the moment where you stop apologizing for being different. This is where you stop trying to shrink yourself to make others comfortable. Instead, you own the truth that your authenticity, your clarity, and your presence are gifts. They're not something to be hidden. They're something to be embraced. This realization isn't just freeing, it's transformative. It changes how you see yourself and how you move through the world. Now that you've reached this understanding, it's time to fully step into it. Release any lingering doubts about your worth. Trust that the light you carry is exactly what's needed, not just for you, but for others who are waiting for someone to show them a different way. The resistance you faced wasn't a sign to stop. It was confirmation that you were on the right path. Every step you take now is a statement of purpose. You're not here to blend in. You're here to illuminate. And as you move forward with this awareness, you'll find that the obstacles that once seemed insurmountable will start to fade. The same people who tried to suppress your light may even find themselves drawn to it, though they'll never admit it. You don't have to fight them. You don't have to prove yourself. Just keep shining and watch as the narrative shifts in your favor. Comment, "I am light," if this resonates with you. You were never meant to fit into their systems of control. Your light is too powerful, too authentic to be dimmed. The more you stand in your truth, the more the world around you transforms. You don't have to hide. You don't have to explain. Just keep being who you are and let your light do the rest. The lie is collapsing in real time. You may have been living with this nagging feeling for months, even years, like something was fundamentally off. You didn't always know what it was, but you felt it deep in your gut. The whispers, the rumors, the way people looked at you when they thought you weren't paying attention. It all seemed to follow a pattern, a shadowy script you hadn't agreed to. For so long, you stayed quiet, convinced that if you just kept your head down and focused on your path, the noise would fade. And yet, it didn't. It grew louder. The narrative twisted in ways you couldn't control. You were accused, blamed, misunderstood. It felt as though the ground beneath you was shifting, unstable and unpredictable. You weren't just hurt, you were left wondering if anyone would ever see the truth. The weight of those falsehoods was immense. Maybe you lost friends over it, or family members began to pull away. Perhaps you felt isolated, questioning whether you were the one in the wrong. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was a carefully constructed story designed to make you doubt yourself. The lies became so ingrained that even you, at times, started to wonder if you were imagining things. And that's the hardest part. It's not just that others believed the falsehoods. It's that you almost started to believe them too. The emotional toll was heavy. You couldn't shake the feeling that you were being set up to fail, that every time you tried to move forward, another untruth was planted to trip you up. It wasn't just frustrating, it was deeply disorienting. But then, something changed. You began to notice that the cracks were showing. The lies, once so polished and convincing, started to unravel. At first, it was subtle. A comment made in passing that didn't align with the narrative. A person who once believed the falsehoods quietly admitting that things didn't add up. Over time, these moments grew. The once solid wall of deception began to crumble piece by piece. And here's the part that might surprise you. This shift didn't come because you fought back directly. It wasn't because you yelled louder or defended yourself at every turn. It was something deeper. The truth has a way of rising, of making itself known even when you don't have the energy to push it. Like a seed that has been buried, it breaks through the surface when the conditions are right. This was the turning point you had hoped for, though it came in a way you never expected. As the falsehoods continued to collapse, you started noticing the signs of transformation in your life. People who once dismissed you were suddenly more attentive, even apologetic. Opportunities that seemed blocked began to reappear. Your own sense of clarity returned, and with it, a renewed confidence. You could see, plain as day, that the truth was making its way to the surface. It wasn't just one or two people admitting they were wrong. It was a ripple effect. The lies no longer had power, and the weight that had pressed down on you for so long was lifting. Every new revelation felt like a breath of fresh air, a reminder that you weren't crazy, that you weren't alone. You began to feel lighter, freer, as the cracks in their narrative grew wider and more people started to see what you had known all along. What you may not have realized at first is that this unraveling wasn't just coincidence. It was divine intervention. The timing of each crack, each revelation, was orchestrated. Forces greater than yourself were at work, ensuring that the truth would not stay hidden forever. You may have felt abandoned in the darkest moments, but the divine was always there, guiding the process. The lies served their purpose, not to break you, but to strengthen your resolve, to teach you discernment, and to set you up for something greater. As the truth emerged, it became clear that your trials were never about punishment. They were about preparation. Each struggle, each tear was part of a plan to elevate you. And now, as the lies collapse, you stand not just as someone who survived, but as someone who is thriving in the light of truth. With this shift, a deep realization dawns on you. For so long, you carried the weight of those lies, believing they defined you. But now, you see that the lies said more about them than they ever did about you. This is the moment when you stop apologizing for the truth. You stop trying to convince people of your worth. You simply stand in it. You've seen the cracks appear. You've watched the house of cards fall. And now you know that your light is stronger than their falsehoods. This is not just a moment of relief. It's a moment of empowerment. You're no longer waiting for the world to see you as you truly are. You're already walking in it, and they're catching up. The truth is here, and it's not going anywhere. So, where do you go from here? You step forward with confidence. You trust the process, knowing that every step you take now is in alignment with the truth. The lies that once held you back are gone, and in their place is a clear, open path. This is your time to move without hesitation, to embrace the opportunities that once seemed out of reach, to connect with people who truly see you for who you are. You no longer need to explain yourself. The truth speaks for itself. Now is the moment to trust your intuition, to deepen your connection to your purpose, and to walk boldly in your calling. The lies are collapsing, and you are rising. Comment "Truth Revealed" if this resonates with you. This is not just the end of a long, painful chapter. It's the beginning of something new, something stronger, something undeniable. The truth has emerged, and so have you. Spiritual records don't forget. It's an unsettling truth. There were times when you felt utterly invisible, when the pain you endured seemed to echo in a void. The manipulation was subtle at first, then blatant. The gaslighting made you question what you knew to be true. You wondered if anyone noticed, if anyone cared. You stayed silent, not because you didn't feel the weight of what was happening, but because you doubted anyone would believe you. It was a lonely, heart-wrenching place to be, carrying burdens that weren't yours to bear, suffering in silence while the world moved on. But deep down, you hoped, no, you believed that this wasn't the end of the story, that somehow, somewhere, all of it was seen and known, even if no one around you acknowledged it. You weren't wrong to feel that way. The betrayal, the lies, the manipulation, none of it went unnoticed. Every tear you cried, every sleepless night spent replaying their words, every moment you felt like giving up, was recorded. Not by people, but by the divine. You see, spiritual records aren't just metaphors. They are real, a sacred ledger kept in realms you cannot yet fully grasp. They show not only what happened, but the intent behind every action. They show the harm done in secret, the gaslighting that made you question yourself, and the suffering you carried in silence. For so long, it seemed like there was no justice, like the scales would never balance. But now, you're beginning to sense that shift. What was done in the dark is finally coming to light. Consider the words of Ecclesiastes 3 verse 17. God will bring into judgment both the righteous and the wicked, for there will be a time for every activity, a time to judge every deed. This verse isn't just about the distant future. It speaks to the cycles of divine justice that unfold in this life as well. For all the times they gaslight you, twisted the narrative, and left you doubting your own reality, there is a divine judgment that reveals the truth. And it's not about revenge. It's about rebalancing the energy, ensuring that the lies don't stand as the final word. God saw the manipulation for what it was. God saw your silent suffering, and God's timing is perfect. As the spiritual records bear witness, what once felt hidden forever now begins to surface, not because you demanded it, but because the truth cannot be suppressed indefinitely. And now, you're seeing the signs of that transformation. Perhaps you've noticed people starting to step back, distancing themselves from the lies they once believed. Maybe someone who once doubted you is beginning to see the cracks in the story. This isn't coincidence. It's divine timing. The same energy that once worked against you is now shifting in your favor. The whispers that once isolated you are fading. The walls they built to keep you silent are crumbling. You're beginning to find your voice again. The truth that was hidden is not just emerging. It's shining, undeniable, and unshakable. You can feel it, can't you? That sense that things are finally turning around, that the pain you carried wasn't for nothing. It's not just relief. It's a confirmation that you were seen, that your endurance wasn't in vain. This shift, however, is more than just people seeing what really happened. It's a spiritual correction. The divine doesn't operate on human timelines. What seemed like delay was actually preparation. Behind the scenes, higher forces were realigning the energy, ensuring that when the truth came out, it would be undeniable. You're not just experiencing vindication, you're witnessing a divine balancing of the scales. This isn't revenge, it's justice. It's the universe setting things right in a way that words alone cannot. As you stand in this moment, know that you didn't just survive, you've stepped into alignment with your purpose. Every setback, every tear was leading you to this point where the spiritual records are now speaking on your behalf. You don't have to explain. The truth is doing that for you. And now you begin to see yourself differently. For so long, the lies made you feel small, as if you were powerless in the face of manipulation. But now you realize that the fact you endured all of it and still stand strong is a testament to your resilience. This is your moment of self-realization. You're not just someone who got through it, you're someone who transformed through it. The lies didn't break you. They revealed your strength. The gaslighting didn't destroy you. It sharpened your discernment. This is your sacred moment to embrace the truth of who you are, to step fully into the light and claim the power that was always yours. No more doubting, no more waiting for someone else to see your worth. You know your worth, and that's what matters now. What happens next is entirely up to you. You have the clarity, the confirmation, and the strength. Now it's time to step forward with confidence. Move boldly into the opportunities that are opening up before you. Trust that the same divine forces that brought the truth to light will continue to guide you. Release any remaining fear because it no longer serves you. Trust that you are exactly where you need to be, that the path ahead is clear, and that you are fully supported. Your spiritual growth, your wisdom, and your light will only grow stronger. Step forward and let your actions speak for themselves. You don't need to prove anything. The truth is all the proof anyone needs. Comment "The truth is here" if this resonates with you. The spiritual records never forgot you. They never forgot what you endured. And now you're seeing the rewards of your faith, your endurance, and your integrity. You're not just rising, you're shining, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop it. The truth is setting you free, and your light is undeniable. You don't need revenge. You are the proof. You know that ache, that pull deep inside, telling you to do something, to fight back, to respond. It's natural. After everything they did, after the lies, the manipulation, the calculated cruelty, you might feel the urge to confront them, to prove them wrong. You might feel that burning need to show the world just how wrong they were about you. But here's what's incredible. You don't have to. You're not obligated to pick up their gauntlet or play by their rules. You don't need to chase revenge or try to force others to see the truth. Instead, you've been given something far greater than retribution. You've been given proof, undeniable and irrefutable, and it's not in the words you speak or the accusations you could throw. The proof is in your survival, in your peace, and in your growth. It's in the way you keep moving forward while they remain stuck in their old patterns. Think about it. They thought they could define you. They thought their words, their schemes, their attempts to tear you down would succeed. But every day you wake up and continue on your path, you're proving them wrong. They didn't break you. They didn't stop you. And in some ways, you owe them a strange kind of gratitude, not because they were right, but because they showed you just how strong you really are. In their efforts to bring you down, they inadvertently revealed your resilience. You didn't have to retaliate. You didn't have to scream or demand validation. Your peace, your growth, your light, those are your answers. They're the only answers you need. Consider what we see in Romans 12 verse 19. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, "It is mine to avenge, I will repay," says the Lord. This isn't just about waiting for some far-off punishment for your enemies. It's about understanding that the very act of living in your truth, of continuing to rise and thrive, is all the proof the world needs. You don't have to fight for justice in a conventional sense because your existence, your ongoing journey, is the justice. They can't erase what they've done. They can't undo the harm they caused. But they also can't stop your light from shining. And that's what undoes them more than anything else. You've likely noticed the shift. The more you focus on your own path, the less you care about what they're doing or saying. You've become untouchable, not because they stopped talking, but because you stopped listening. Your actions, your achievements, your calm demeanor, all of these things stand in stark contrast to the chaos they tried to unleash in your life. And it's not just that you've moved on, it's that you've grown. You're flourishing in ways they never expected. They wanted you silenced, but your quiet strength speaks volumes. They wanted you defeated, but your resilience is their defeat. The more you succeed, the less room there is for their lies to take hold. You are the living proof that their power was never real. Behind the scenes, the forces that matter most have been working in your favor. The divine doesn't need dramatic displays to bring about justice. Sometimes the greatest victories happen in the quiet moments, when you realize that their opinions no longer define you, when you wake up feeling at peace despite everything they did. That's when you know you've won. The synchronicities, the opportunities, the healing that keeps showing up in your life, these aren't accidents. They're confirmation that you're aligned with something far greater than their pettiness. You've stepped into a flow where everything they tried to destroy is being restored and multiplied. And the best part? You didn't have to lift a finger to make it happen. It's all unfolding naturally, a testament to the fact that their actions were never enough to stop what was meant for you. The truth is out. What they tried to keep hidden has been revealed. You don't need to fight back. Your survival is the sword. Your silence, thunder. Your rise, their reckoning. Comment, "I am chosen," if this resonates with you. Subscribe if you haven't yet. like this video, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. For full prophetic revelations daily, join the membership via the link in the description. Your spiritual path deserves more than fragments. Step into the full light. The divine reversal has begun, and you're walking straight into your victory.